All right, UFC Qatar, Tsarukyan versus Hooker, full card predictions. Starting from the early prelim opener to the main event and main card. It's a decent card, but I'm going to go kind of quick because I didn't do an insane amount of research on this. Yeah, first fight of the card, we've got Marek Bujlo versus, what's his name, Denzel Freeman. I'm going to go with Bujlo. I know he's the underdog, and I know he doesn't have like the most touted, amateur career, but he is the bigger fighter, and a lot of people are talking about Freeman like he's way more tested than Bujlo because Bujlo didn't fight anyone good, but Freeman hasn't fought like a ton of good fighters. He fought Asplund and he fought Pinson, and Pinson was like a decent prospect when they fought, especially after Pinson won. And you can argue that Pinson should have lost that fight, should have been robbery, but since that fight, Pinson went like 1-2 in his career, and I don't think he's all that good. He's supposed to be like a good wrestler, but he got out-grappled in his 2 losses and finished on the ground in both fights. So I think Freeman, like being unable to do that, is not a very good look. And then Bujlo is very big. He's more athletic than Freeman, like at least in his build. And he hits harder. So I think if he gets on top, he can get a finish from on top. And if not, I could see him controlling Freeman and winning the decision. So yeah, I think a lot of people saw that Bujlo was undefeated and picked him. Because like over 60% of people on Tapology are picking him, and he's the underdog. But I don't think it's a bad pick. I'm gonna go with him. I just like it. You can't say that one guy's tested because he went 1-1 against like decent fighters, and then another guy isn't tested because he hasn't fought any. I guess you can say that they're both untested. That's my point. So I'm gonna go with Bujlo. I don't think he's gonna be any good, but I don't think Freeman's any good either. I think at least Bujlo looks like a decent fighter. Like he's throwing like special education punches, but they're landing and he's finishing people, so I don't know. I'm going to go with him. Next fight of the card, we got Saygid Izagakhmaev versus Nicolas Dalby. Izagakhmaev hasn't fought in a while. He fought Shinya Aoki in his last fight like a couple years ago, and he got a finish in the first round. And you might be thinking, Shinya Aoki, isn't he like 41 years old? And he'd be right because he is 41 years old. But you know he's also 41 years old? Nicolas Dalby. And I know Dalby isn't really... the only time he's been finished in the UFC, or maybe I think ever in his career, was against Randy Brown in his last fight. But he hasn't fought a ton of like great finishers. Darren Till's not finishing people. And Ernat Fakretnov isn't finishing good fighters. Stuff like that. So... yeah, I don't think it's like that big of a surprise he hasn't been finished. And, I think Izagakhmaev is a much better finisher. I think he's got power in his hands. Like, Shinya Aoki isn't the easiest guy to finish on the feet. I know he got finished on the feet, 5 days ago. But, generally, he's not that easy to finish on the feet. And he also was 3 years younger when they fought. And Izagakhmaev is also a really good grappler. He beat Gasanov. Gave Gasanov one of his, only 2 losses. Earlier on in his career. They were both really young when they fought. I think they were both 20. But he's got a decent regional career. He fought in UFC. He didn't fight in ACA or ACB or anything like that. Like a lot of the Russian guys that came up. He didn't fight in M1 either. But I don't mind. I'll be honest. I don't think his regional career is all that good. But his more recent career, like in One and in Eagle, is a lot better than a lot of the Dagestani guys you see come up in the UFC. So I think he's going to be pretty solid. I'm going to go with him. Dalby also could be very washed. Sometimes when a guy's older and he gets a really bad finish, loss for the first time, and it's also not that long of a turnaround, they tend to regress pretty heavily. So this could be Dalby's last fight. Next fight of the card, you got Nurullo Aliev versus Shamrock. I'm going to go with Nurullo Aliev. I think Shamrock's pretty good. He might be the more talented fighter. I haven't been that impressed by Aliev. I don't think his takedowns are incredible. I don't think his ground and pound or his transitions are crazy. But his control is pretty good. He's got good wrestling. I think Shamrock's probably better on the feet. Probably better when it comes to submission grappling. But I just don't think he has a very good style for winning this fight. He's a kind of the UFC has him listed at both 5'10". I think Shamrock's 6 foot or 6'1". He seems like a pretty lanky, lightweight, featherweight. Wait, is this a featherweight fight or a lightweight fight? Tapology says it's featherweight, 155 pounds. but I don't know. Aliev fought at 155 in his last fight. Shamrock fought at 160 in his last fight. Pretty sure it's at lightweight. Yeah, Shamrock's pretty lanky, lightweight, which I think makes him easier to take down. And he's not the most, like the cleanest striker on the feet. A lot of times when you see grapplers who've got a little power, they're pretty long with their strikes, but they're also pretty loopy with their strikes, which makes them easier to time and duck under, or, catch, with their legs crossed or something. So I think he's going to be kind of easy to take down. And his submissions are usually, like I was saying with Rodolfo Vieira last week, his submissions are usually from top position, not from bottom position. So I don't think he's going to catch a guillotine or, catch a triangle off the bottom or something like that. He could. He's pretty slick. He trains with Paddy Pimblett, who's got good submissions off bottom. But, it's a lot harder to get those. Like we saw with JDM last week. If you're trying to get your grappling game going off your back, you're not going to have a ton of success against a good wrestler. And Aliev is that, I think. Now, I think that Shamrock is actually a pretty solid chance of winning this fight. Aliev is pretty hittable on the feet, and Shamrock's got decent pop, and I think he's got decent striking. I think that he has a better chance of winning this fight than Bo Nickal did against Vieira. It's a similar matchup. Than Vieira did against Bo Nickal. Like, Vieira was like a plus 200, and Shamrock's plus 250, and Vieira has no striking, he has no pop, and he also doesn't have a submission game on his back. So I think Shamrock should be a smaller underdog, but I can see Aliev just easily taking him down and doesn't even have to control him. He could just take him down multiple times. And usually when it's a grappler and they're starting to get behind, they might welcome the grappling just because they think they can get a fluke submission or get a good position. I think Shamrock's really good, in grappling. He's got a couple rear naked chokes in a row, or he had a couple in Octagon, and he had in one of his earlier fights, he had a Python trap submission, which I didn't know what that was, so I had to look up Wagner Rocha explain it. And it's where you trap one of their arms in a body triangle when you have their back, and then you cover their mouth and nose with your hand so they can't breathe, and then you do wrist control on the other hand so they can't move your hand away. It's a pretty cool submission, and it's pretty slick to get that in a professional fight, but you're not going to do that against Nurullo Aliev. So I'm going to go with the Aliev, probably by decision. I don't see him getting a finish. I don't see him dominating the fight as far as damage, but I can see him dominating the fight by having 8 minutes of control in a 15-minute fight. So I'm gonna go with him, which I guess according to everyone on Twitter, that is the most dominant way you can win a fight. Valentina Shevchenko, 21 minutes of control, dominated Zhang Weili. Islam Makhachev, 19.5 minutes of control, dominated JDM. Did no damage, landed fucking 7 significant strikes around, domination. Next fight of the card, you've got Ryan Loder versus Ismail Naurdiev. I'm going Naurdiev. I don't think Loder's any good. He beat Robert Valentin by out wrestling him. It was kind of a weird finish where he gets them in the mounting crucifix and he just lands pitter-pat shots. But Valentin can't get out, so they just stop the fight. I didn't love the stoppage. I mean, you could have seen the same stoppage in the DDP fight against Yakhyaev multiple times, but you didn't because that was a title fight, I guess, and the rules are different in title fights or something. But then we later went on to see Valentin can't strike on the feet against Thibaut Gauthier, and he gets controlled for 14 minutes of a 15-minute fight against what's his name, Torres Finney. So don't love that performance by Loder. His other fight was against Azmatbekov, where he got knocked out easy on the feet and looked like he'd never fucking fought a fight before. And Bekov just got dominated by what's his name, Bagarui. So I'm gonna go with Naurdiev to just look like he's never fought a fight before, and then not get completely dominated on the ground. Naurdiev isn't that good. He got cut from the UFC, he got re-signed, he beat Bruno Silva, and then he lost to Junior Park, but he kind of lost as a result of getting a ton of point deductions from cheating, and I don't know if that'll happen again. So I'm gonna pick him to win. Next fight of the card, Bekzat Almakhan versus Aleksandre Topuria. I'm gonna go with Aleksandre Topuria. It's a pretty even odds fight. A lot of people picking Almakhan. I think people love to pick a fraud check, especially if it's a guy that has a big name that isn't super proven. I get that, but I think Topuria actually looked pretty solid in his last fight. He had a lot more highlights, so if you watch the length of the fight rather than the highlights, you'll see it was a very close fight against Colby Thickness. But I don't think Thickness is that bad, and he did take that fight on short notice, which I guess makes Topuria look a bit worse. But people are pointing out Musasa made Thickness look really bad on the feet, and Musasa's bad because he can't grapple. But Musasa was a really highly touted prospect before his debut, and he's pretty slick on the feet, and I don't hate that, losing him on the feet in a similar way you lose to Aleksandre Topuria. And if you look at Bekzat Almakhan, like, people are giving Topuria a lot of shit for only looking good in the highlights against Colby Thickness, but people are also giving Almakhan credit for looking good against Umar Nurmagomedov when he landed literally I think he landed 3 significant strikes in that fight, and one of them knocked Umar down. And other than that knockdown, he did literally nothing in that fight. He lost the round where he got the knockdown, which I think is bullshit, and the judges love to do. Like, the judges gave Umar the round against Mario Bautista when Mario Bautista dropped him and almost finished him, because Umar had control for 3 minutes that round. They did the same thing in the Almakhan fight, which I think is bullshit. But I mean, Bekzat literally did nothing else in that fight other than drop Umar. And, it's kind of dumb to say, but that kind of happened in his last fight against, what's his name? Brad Katona. I know the fight was only a minute long, but other than the knockdown and their knockout, he did literally nothing. He landed 7 significant strikes in that fight, and 4 of them were in the finishing sequence. So he didn't really do shit in the fight, and then he gets the finish and he wins. And if he doesn't do that against Aleksandre Topuria, I think people are going to be like, oh my god, this guy's dog shit on the feet. We didn't see a ton of his striking on the feet in either of his fights because he got controlled so much in the Umar fight, and the other fight was only a minute long. But I think that the more we see, the more we'll realize he's not very good. So I'm going to go with Aleksandre Topuria. I genuinely think he's pretty good on the feet. I genuinely think he's a pretty good grappler. Bekzat Almakhan had nothing in the grappling for Umar. So I'm not going to pick him. I mean, he could be good, I guess, but if he doesn't finish Topuria, I think he's probably not the better fighter, and he's also doesn't have a ton of activity, and that's kind of how Topuria beat Thickness. Thickness didn't have a ton when he's on the back foot, so if Topuria can just outland him and outvolume him, I think he'll win the fight. Next fight of the card, we got Kyoji Horiguchi versus Tagir Ulanbekov. I'm going with my boy Horiguchi. I'm kind of pissed that they made this his debut, just because Ulanbekov's such a weird fighter. Like, we know he's not all that good, but he has a style that's just so fucking boring and receptive to winning fights, especially when the judges are Qatari. Or the judges aren't even Qatari. The judges are, there's no commission in Qatar, so the judges are whoever the fuck the UFC wants to put in there. Horiguchi doesn't really lose fights unless he gets finished, especially since the Demetrius Johnson fight. I guess he did get finished in that fight with the second left, but he doesn't really get outworked in a ton of fights. The only one I can remember is the Patchy Mix fight. He was beating Sergio Pettis in their first fight very clearly. He was up 3 rounds and he got finished in the 4th. And then they had a rematch and he won, I'm pretty sure 29-28 against Sergio Pettis, who's a really good fighter. Just finished Magomedov. Magomed Karamov, I'm pretty sure is his name. Whatever, the guy at PFL. He finished him. And that was a weight class for Horiguchi. He's back down to flyweight. He had some solid performances in Rizin. He beat Hiramasa Wagakubo. He beat Kaya Sakura by decision. He beat Yuki Matoya. He beat a lot of the better guys in Rizin, especially for that being a pretty broad weight class. I didn't love his last fight against Nkazimulo Zulu. He was a very big favorite in that fight, and he had a pretty close decision where he didn't make the fight very clear. That's my memory of the fight. I did watch it at fucking 2 a.m. on New Year's Day. So, pardon my memory. But it was probably actually 5 a.m. because that was the co-main event. But he won the fight, and Kazimulu Zulu's kind of an interesting style, so it's not the best scale. I just think Horiguchi's pretty good unless he gets finished. He's a very technical, very tactical fighter, and I think he trains at ATT. He's got a lot of good wrestlers in his camp. I don't think Ulanbekov's going to finish him, and Ulanbekov is not the best at clearly winning fights, at least nearly in the way that Horiguchi is. So, yeah, I'm going to pick him. I know Kaya Sakura came and he got finished by Pantoja, and then didn't look good against Tim Elliott, but Ulanbekov lost to Tim Elliott, so there you go. No, Ulanbekov just doesn't make fights clear. His last fight against, what was it? Kazakhstani's guy's name. Azat Maxim, made it close. The Clayton Carpenter fight was close. Finished Cody Durden, finished Nate Maness. I don't think Nate Maness is in the UFC anymore. Cody Durden is a finishable guy. I think Horiguchi is just one of the better fighters in the weight class. He's out, striking and out tacticking or techniquing good fighters up a weight class. So, I mean, he got beaten by Patchy Mix in the grappling, but Patchy Mix is much bigger than, what's his name, Ulanbekov, and he's, I think, a much better tactician. So, I'm going to go with Horiguchi. Next fight up the card, Abdul Rahman Yakhyaev versus Rafael Cerqueira. Yeah, Rafael Cerqueira is fucking horrible at fighting. I was really high on him when he came to UFC because he was 11-0 with 11 first-round finishes. But his first 2 fights in the UFC, he got finished in like 20 seconds total. And then his last fight, he fought Julius Walker, and they had like a really bad, boring, like back-and-forth grappling match where they both gassed out really early. And I'm not like the highest on Abdul Rahman Yakhyaev. He fought kind of a bum on the Contender Series. But, you know, Rafael Cerqueira is a bum, and he's very finishable. And Yakhyaev has a decent, like, first-round finishing ability on the feet. I think that's literally all you need to beat Cerqueira, who, as soon as he gets hurt a little bit, will just back up and shell up against the cage until he gets knocked out cold. So, I'm going to go with Yakhyaev. Next fight of the card, Luke Riley versus Bogdan Grad. I'm going Luke Riley. Yeah, I don't know like if he should be a huge favorite. He has close fights against like not very good fighters. That's kind of his style, is like a, you know, go to war basically. And Bogdan Grad I don't think is that good. Like, gun to the back of your head, name something that Bogdan Grad has done in the UFC. Like, not like a fight that he's had. Like, name a moment in a fight he's had. Okay? And he can't do it. No one can do it because all of his fights are very boring and nothing really happens. And I think Luke Riley is very good at like breaking away from that, creating action. I also think he's way more technical. I can see him just like, you know, standing at like a decent range with Bogdan Grad and lighting him up on the feet. So I'm going to pick him to do that. I think he can get a first round finish. Bogdan Grad is just kind of a blockhead. Like, who did he beat on the Contender Series? What was his name? Oh, Michael Aswell. Michael Aswell isn't terrible. But he arguably lost that fight. Probably shouldn't have got signed because that wasn't an amazing fight. And then he beat Lucas Alexander, who shouldn't be in the UFC. I don't know. I'm going with Luke Riley. Next fight of the card, Alex Perez versus Asu Almakhan. I'm going to go with Almakhan. Alex Perez, I'm trying to, like, his fights where he fights grapplers in memory. Like the Makhaev fight, obviously. That fight was really close, and that was one of Makhaev's fights where he does like nothing on the feet, and then he just like goes for control against the cage grappling. And Aliev is kind of similar, where he's like a very control heavy grappler. He doesn't like jump for position a lot, but he does way more on the feet. I think he does like a lot of sporadic shit. He's very quick. I can see him outlanding Perez, like overwhelming Perez and then using the grappling once he's overwhelmed. So if this fight goes to a close decision like the Makhaev fight did, I think Almakhan will have done more on the feet. And Perez is not much of a winner recently. Like, he beat Matheus Nicolau, who's since been cut. That's a decent win. Like, I can see Nicolau having a close fight without... Wait, didn't they fight? Yeah, Almakhan dominated Nicolau. What am I talking about? Yeah, I think it's like to beat Almakhan, you need to be strong enough to like reliably stuff takedowns in the open, and then you need to be dangerous enough that you can keep backing them down, which I thought Ochoa might be. But I guess Ochoa wasn't strong enough to stop all the takedowns. I think that fight was also like kind of on short notice for both of them. So, yeah, I don't think Alex Perez is strong enough to suffer takedowns. I also don't think he's that dangerous. He did knock out Nicolau, which I'm trying to come to terms with still. Like, that fight didn't make a ton of sense. And he's got good leg kicks, but I don't think that's going to be enough to like make Almakhan back down the whole fight. And if Almakhan isn't like persistently being backed down, we saw him just overwhelm Nicolau and out-grapple Ochoa whenever there was any trouble. So I think it'll be more of the same. Next fight at the card, we got Sergey Spivak versus Shamil Gaziev. I'm going Gaziev. Sergey Spivak, in hindsight, like, he hasn't had the best run recently. He lost to Waldo Cortez Acosta, who I think is a fucking bum. Who else did he lose to? Jailton Almeida. He looked decent in that fight, but Jailton Almeida might be a little bit more bullyable than we thought at the time. And then the Tybura fight, he did submit Tybura in like a minute, but he was very easily taken down by Tybura, and Tybura's kind of a blockhead, so he kind of just sat and let his arm get, taken out and armbarred. So I think if he's that easy to take down, Gaziev can have like a pitter-patter, boring fight against him on the feet, where he can maybe land a knockout shot. And if things aren't going his way, I think he could just easily take down Spivak. And he's like top heavy enough where I don't think he's going to get like like, you don't always want to be top heavy as a grappler. Like, that's a decent way to get reversed, especially like swept onto your back and the other guy like rolls up on top of you. But at a heavyweight, guys aren't really doing that. Like, Sergey Spivak isn't gonna fucking knee lever him or butterfly sweep or anything like that. So him being top heavy does like allow him to, or Gaziev being top heavy does allow him to like keep control pretty well against these bummy heavyweights. And the only way we've really seen Gaziev lose is gassing out. Like, I think the reason why he lost against Rosenstrike was he was trying to pace himself early on, and then once that wasn't working, he tried to expend energy to like get some rounds back, and he gassed out really hard and lost. But in a 3-round fight, he's not going to really pace himself, so I think he's going to go like a steady pace of just kind of a little bit the whole fight, and then I'll probably win by decision, I think. Yeah. Next fight of the card, you've got Jack Hermansson versus Muktabek Oralbai. I think it's a horrible idea for Hermansson to get finished as badly as he did, and then go down a weight class and cut more weight when he was already like a pretty like framey, big middleweight. And I think he's going to make his chin worse. And I think Oralbai is a very technical fighter. He's a very like solid, well-rounded fighter, and he's not going to have much of a weight cut. So if this fight becomes a war at all, I think Hermansson's just getting chinned, and Oralbai kind of gets in wars a lot. Like, he gets in close fights. Yeah. Also, Oralbai fought Uros Medic in his debut on short notice, up a weight class at welterweight, and he very easily out-controlled and like dominated Medic, and then submitted him in like the second or third round. And I don't think that's the easiest thing to do. I don't think Medic is that good, but going up a weight class on short notice and then like out physicality a guy who's like decently sized for welterweight, I think is a good look. I know Medic used to be a lightweight, but he was a big frame lightweight, kind of like Islam. Well, he's not like Islam at all, but he had a similar frame to Islam at lightweight, and then he went up a weight class and he kind of expanded into that frame like we saw Islam do. So I think for Oralbai being able to easily out-grapple him was a good look. And I don't know if he'll dominate Hermansson, who's technical in the grappling, but I could see him just landing a punch and knocking him out, and I could see him like out-techniquing throughout the fight. I don't really know Hermansson's way to win this, other than like land a big knockout shot because you're a middleweight and he's a lightweight. But like, does Hermansson really do that anymore? Like, he's like, you know, out craftying Chris Curtis and Joe Pyfer and fucking having a close fight with Sean Strickland, but he's not like chinning them, you know. So I'm gonna go with Oralbai. Next fight of the card, of Volkan Oezdemir versus Alonzo Menifeld. I think Menifield's kind of a bum. I think he's gonna get finished in the first round. I think Oezdemir's really good. You know, Oezdemir had his test. Like, he's had mixed results against the top of the division. I'm thinking like Aliev and Olberg. He's had close fights with them, and who else? Krylov beat him by decision in a close fight. But when he's actually had to like fight contenders and like, you know, like retest himself to keep himself at the top, he fought what's his name? The Bogdan Guskov, who's really good, and he finished him, and he looked really good in that fight. And I don't think Alonzo Menifield is nearly as good as Bogdan Guskov. He had a very close fight with Jimmy Crute. He had like a draw. He had or was it a no contest? I don't know. He had a close fight with Jimmy Crute, and then he finished Jimmy Crute. Or I think he finished him in the first fight and then had a rematch or whatever. I don't remember. He had a really close fight with Julius Walker, who, like I just said, had a really close fight with Rafael Cerqueira, who was like the bottom of the barrel at light heavyweight. So I think that's a pretty bad look. And he beat Umar Sy, but Umar Sy did literally nothing in that fight. I know Umar Sy might have been scared of Menifield's power, but when you look at Volkan Oezdemir, who's like not afraid of the power of Olberg, not afraid of the power of Guskov, not afraid of the power of Krylov, not afraid of the power of Blachowicz, or Reyes when they fought, I don't think he's going to be intimidated, and I think he's going to go in there, and I think he's going to beat up Menifield and easily beat him. I just don't think Menifield's that good. And I think a lot of people are like, well, Menifield used to be a bum, and then he went to a new gym. In his last two fights, he's gone to decision, so that means he's a technical fighter now. It's like, well, you watch those fights, and his technique was fucking horrible, and nothing happened in either of those fights. Actually, the Menifield-Walker fight was kind of a war, but Walker isn't that good. Like, he had a close fight with fucking Rafael Cerqueira. So I'm going to go with Oezdemir. I think he's a much better fighter. I think he gets this done easily with a finish. If Menifield wins this fight, nothing makes sense. Next fight of the card, we've got Bilal Muhammad versus Ian Machado Garry. Also, by the way, Menifield fought Olberg and just ran at him and got knocked out right away. And Olberg fought Oezdemir, and Oezdemir arguably won. So, yeah. Next up the card, we got Bilal Muhammad versus Ian Machado Garry. I think I'm going Ian Garry. I'm pretty 50-50 on this. Bilal Muhammad coming off a loss where he took a good amount of damage. I can see a lot of that damage getting reopened. Gary's got a good jab. He's got a good 1-2. He's got good leg kicks. I think he's got a good style for beating Bilal. I was proven right by that when watching Prates against Edwards. I was really impressed by Ian Gary's ability to get out of the way and return fire against Prates. And I thought Prates might be able to not worry about that against Edwards because Edwards was beaten up so easily by Bilal. And I was proven right because Prates went out there and finished Edwards. And Edwards didn't have a lot of good footwork, and he didn't move his head very well in the way that Ian Garry did. So the fact that Prates had more success than Bilal against Edwards, and he didn't have and he had very little success against Ian Garry in their fight. And all of his success came in the 4th and 5th round, and this is a 3-round fight. I think bodes pretty well for Ian Garry. Bilal's a very pressure-heavy fighter, but he's not very technical when he uses that pressure. We saw that against JDM. He came in leaving himself open a lot. He didn't have a ton of setups. His jab was really good, and he kept using his jab. But I think Ian Garry is a lot taller and uses like a better, straight punch, dodging head movement than JDM. And I think Ian Garry's also got really good grappling. Maybe not the best in the world, like Shawkat had some success, but I don't think Bilal's going to reliably out-grapple him like he was able to a couple other fighters. So I think Ian Garry has a pretty good chance of winning this. I don't think it's a finish. Obviously, it's a 3-round fight. He's not a very big finisher. But yeah, I think he's got all the tools to beat Bilal. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, his Bilal's footwork is really bad. Like against Edwards, he would literally walk up to him like he was, going to shake his hand, instead of using good footwork. And because Edwards is so hesitant against the cage and is a very much catch and then throw guy, he became pretty predictable, and Bilal was able to take advantage of that. But I don't think Gary's nearly that predictable. He has much better footwork. He has much better head movement, and this, especially in a 3-round fight, his footwork started to lose him as the fight went on against Prates. But again, 3-round fight, he doesn't gotta worry about it. Next fight of the card. Oh, by the way, if Ian Garry wins this fight dominantly, especially if he gets a finish, he should be the title fight. If not, this is kind of what I'm thinking. If Ian Garry wins this fight dominantly or gets a finish, give him the title fight. If he doesn't, just fucking give him Usman. Usman is a good legacy fight. I think Makhachev's kind of earned that. He's fought a lot of dangerous guys. I don't think it's Usman's earned it. He's 1-3 in his last 4. But fuck it, give him the fight. There's not a very clear contender anyways. And they should have Prates and Morales fight, and then the winner of this fight Shavkat. And whoever wins looks the best in those 2 fights should fight the winner of Usman Islam, or if Islam retires, then those 2 fight for the vacant belt. So yeah, I'll talk about that more after the fight. I think I might start doing post-fight recaps. My last one did pretty well. So yeah, main event. Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker. I'm going Arman Tsarukyan. I'm still not super high on Dan Hooker. Both of them had close fights with Gamrot. But I think that Hooker should have arguably lost more than... I also think Arman should have arguably won more than Hooker should have. So... that's how I'm viewing that matchup. And then also, I think that Arman just has a pretty good style for beating a guy like Hooker. He's technical enough on the feet. Oliveira beats guys up on the feet, like a Gamrot he did. Obviously, Poirier, Chandler, Gaethje, he finished all those guys with shit on the feet. I guess not Poirier, but he did beat up Poirier on the feet in the 2nd round. And against Arman Tsarukyan, he had some good positions in the clinch. He had some decent positions on the feet, and he wasn't able to do a ton of damage. And he kind of strikes in a similar way at range and in the clinch as Hooker. So if Oliveira wasn't able to do a ton of damage, especially with a smaller... I think Oliveira will be less afraid of grappling than Hooker is. I think that Hooker's not going to be able to do a ton of damage on the feet either. He's maybe not going to lose in the feet, but I don't think he's nearly going to make up the damage on the feet that he's going to take on the ground, just because Arman is so much better at Gamrot at once he gets a guy down, passing to half guard, getting the underhook, framing for space, and then throwing elbows, or passing in a mount or side control, or going for a Kimura or arm lock or something like that. So, yeah, I just think Armin's so much better off the top than everyone Hooker's fought except for Islam, and Islam finished Hooker on the ground. Yeah, I don't really know where Hooker finds his win. I think the only way he can win this fight is if he gets Armin to completely gas out and break by stuffing all the takedowns and punishing all of them. And like, you know, fighters can do that. That happens like kind of often against, you know, decent fighters do that kind of often, but it's rare to see it happen to a really good fighter like Armin Tsarukyan, and I don't think Dan Hooker's that guy. Like, I think we've seen the best of Dan Hooker, and I don't think the best of him, even in the Gamrot fight. Like, sure, he was punishing the failed takedowns, but he was still getting taken down a decent amount. He was getting controlled, and he wasn't, like, dominating on the feet. He was, like, slightly ahead. So I don't think he's the guy to, like, go out there and break Armin Tsarukyan over 5 rounds and finish him later, or, like, 10-8 him in a couple rounds or something like that. Like, I don't think he's going to do a ton of punishment. And I think that's what he needs to do to win, other than, like, fluking a fucking guillotine or something. But I think all of the most, like, reasonable paths to victory are Armin's, which it's, like, control, out-damage on the ground, out-damage on the feet, submit him. Like, all of, like, the most, you know, likely paths to victory, I think, are all Armin's. And not that Hooker needs a fluke, but I think his most likely chance of victory is a fluke. Like, I think it's more likely that he flukes this win than he, you know, breaks Armin or something like that. So, yeah, I'm going to pick Tsarukyan. Let me know if you agree or disagree. I'm also going to pick Tension to win this weekend. I'm high on Tension. But because I'm going to watch the Tension fight on Monday morning at, like, fucking 4 in the morning, I will probably miss, like, the early prelims of this card. I don't know, my sleep schedule's been all fucked up since last weekend, but yeah. Let me know what you think of the picks. Comment if you agree or disagree, if you want to hear more about a certain pick. You can also follow me on Twitter. I'll live tweeted like every combat sports event this year. I will continue to do so until this year ends and beyond then. If you want to see all my picks for this year, I have a playlist on my channel. Yeah, I think that's all. Yeah, there's a lot of good fights for the rest of the year. We've got the good boxing card this weekend. My boy, I'll pick Brian Norman to win. I'll pick Bam to win. I'll pick Benavidez to win. I'll pick the favorite of the other fight that I can't remember. Yeah, I'll live tweet those events. There's also, like I said, there's more boxing at the end of the year. December 26th, there's the Inoue, Nakatani, Tsutsumi fights, like all those. So I'll live tweet those if you want to see that. Watch my last video if you want to hear what I thought about the card and the main and co-main event. That is all. Thank you for listening.